Hello and welcome to another episode of the Big Money Stylist Podcast. I'm Danielle. This is Ani.
Hello.
And we are on episode number 128. No, 129.
You just said it.
I know. I just said it. I have dyslexia or something. Every time I think of a number, it doesn't compute when I try to say it.
Is it the twitchy eye syndrome? Is that what this is?
I came into the studio today and I was like, Ani, am I twitching? And she's like, when you do that, and by the way, if you're just listening, I literally was like, no, I feel like my eye is twitching, and I was twitching it as I was saying that. But do you ever have a spasm in your eye or your eyebrow?
Do you
Is it doing it? Yes.
Do you know
what I'm saying? It's like a nerve thing.
Do you know what it is? So I know
what does it mean?
You're stressed out.
Oh.
So I know for me, if I say is my eye twitching and it's my left one, it's a joke because I can control my left one. I can't control my right. So if ever you see my right eye twitching, Danielle, it probably means I'm really stressed out.
I'm not that stressed, but I do have anxiety where it just flares up out of nowhere, and it could be something triggers it, and I'll be like, I'm fine, and then I'm like, shit, my eye's doing the thing. My eye's
and you
doing
can't
the
control
thing.
it, and all of a sudden it's going.
Yeah, and you're talking to somebody, and it's gotten so bad where I'm talking to somebody, and they're looking at me like, what's your eyeball doing? I'm
why does Danielle keep winking at me?
I know.
I'm not.
But that's what's so funny is I'm not that stressed, but maybe I had something that triggered. I don't know. But all today and yesterday, I was my eye has been really bothering me. So I don't know. I am. You know what it is? Here's what it is. I am not a planner by nature. I like all the detail. I want to just show up and have it taken care of. But if I do plan something, it's pretty thought out and well planned.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter turns 1 next year. Oh, I want to cry little bit. Next next week, not next year. And I'm trying to plan her birthday, but then I was also planning, and this goes into our next topic, I was also planning a family trip in the next couple weeks, and I was just covering all the details for everything, and I just hate details, and I hate...
That's for sure what's making your eye twitch.
It probably is, because literally I'm like, did I follow up with food people? Did I follow up with this? Okay, did I get her this? And then I got photo shoots for the cake smash, and then it's it's not that it's stressful, it's just that I'm not used to, I don't like planning events. I remember this last year, Garrett's like, let's throw a Halloween party. And I was like, he doesn't know how much work it is to plan anything. And he just puts everything on me all the time. And I was like, I really don't want to have a Halloween party because I don't want to plan it. He's like, no, we'll do it. It'll be fun. So I literally half-ass planned it. I was like, taco guy, check. Bartender, check. Pop-up thing, check. Whatever. And I show up late to my own party and Garrett's sweating. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I can't believe you didn't have all this ready and prepped and ready to go. He was getting mad at me, and I was like, you're the one that told me to have a Halloween party. I booked everything out. I told you to be here an hour before and just show up for the vendors. And you're irritated. I'm welcome to planning.
So we're not having a 4th of July party at your house?
No. But that's what I'm saying is normally if I do plan something, I do. And this was the one situation where I was like, you do it, Garrett. And at the end of the party, he literally laughed and was like, well, he was drinking.
You're both wasted.
He was pretty wasted, but he was more so than me. And he was like, well, my wife didn't plan very well, so everybody clean up your shit. And I was like, way to be a party killer, Garrett.
He literally did.
Everyone
walked around with trash bags.
Yes, and I remember thinking didn't you just get in the ocean in your underwear? Why don't you just pick up the garbage yourself? Come on. But anyways, that is not our topic today. Our topic
I forgot
today,
about that.
Yes, literally. But I've been planning stuff, and maybe that's why my eye is twitching. But if you guys have ever had the eye twitch, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
And everybody's had it.
Everybody
has
it's
had
weird.
the eye
I
twitch.
think it's I don't know if it's a stress thing. If I'm did I drink enough water? What's going on? But
for sure it's stress because it only comes up for maybe once a year when all the big events are together, and all of a sudden my right eye is
that is what it is. It's ticket sales this week, and it's that mixed with planning, mixed with my family trip coming up, that's what it is.
And I know it is, and I'm not surprised because you asked me the same question 6 times a day. You're like,
a broken record.
Yeah, you're like, did this get done? I'm like, yeah. Well, don't forget we're doing this. Yeah, I know. Don't forget, but we're doing.
That's
I know.
what it is. It's launch week.
Did I tell you? I'm like, Danielle, for fuck's sake.
Because I haven't had I looked at my schedule and it wasn't super busy this weekend. I'm like, but why am I so on pins and needles? But
Same
that's
with me.
why.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, well, in case you guys don't know, tickets for BMS Con 5 were released on Monday just to our Academy students.
Yeah.
They've had their assistants, their employees, their friends signing up. And Friday at midnight, early access becomes available. I think we already have 1.5 times the amount of tickets available inside of the wait list.
Well, it's crazy because I was like, hey, we have a wait list and email list of there's a lot of people on this list. And I'm like, hey, why don't we do an early access list where we can give them better pricing and that kind of thing. And we'll sell that first and then open it to the public. And we already have so many people on that list before it even is going to go to the public, which is amazing. But it's I was like,
tickets. Yeah, if you're not on that wait list, I don't think anyone is not going to get one.
I want to be the first person in both of my companies company and Garrett's to say it's sold out before we even went public just off of an email list.
Let's do
Ta-da! I've always wanted to do that. Right? Like people are like, I didn't know tickets went on sale. Well, should have joined the early access list.
And literally, and I watch the numbers every day. I do it when I wake up, like midday before I go to bed, just to like keep track and gauge. And every day I'm like, oh dear.
Well, you know what's so funny is because, okay, this is like kind of on topic, but there's this brand called Love Shack Fancy that's really cute and it's kind of pricey. Well, Target came out with the Love Shack Fancy brand. Obviously, it's like $40 instead of $400, right?
Shut up.
Yes. Oh, but wait. It was like, it shows you all the cute stuff and you're already scrolling, but you can't put it in your cart. So then it's like, it will go live available at midnight on July or June 2nd or whatever it was, right? So literally, I'm like, I'm not staying up till midnight. I can barely make it till 10 o'clock. So the next day, I get online, literally every size is gone of like probably at least 30 dresses. Like literally, I was like, wow. Like I was like, how did this happen? You guys sent me an email. You told me to buy it and I didn't want to stay up till midnight.
Do they still have anything?
No, it is gone. It felt like concert ticket sales or something. But
don't even get me started.
I know. So that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I want to like see how this early access list goes. And if you guys are not on it, as soon as what time does it open? Midnight.
I have it set to midnight.
Okay, so you're gonna have to stay up till midnight, and we'll see where it goes.
Saturday at midnight. And the crazy thing is, it opens Saturday at midnight, and it closes Sunday at 11:59 p.m. It's only open for 48 hours. That early access list before it goes public,
and then it goes public.
Yeah, and our public list is. It's hefty. So
well, because we're putting 350 in the event safely. That's all we can do right now with everything going on.
Yeah.
We have a very large event venue to safely put 350 artists in there. So I feel like, I think it's going to be amazing. I think it'll be good. But
I want to talk about something. Yeah.
Yes, we got to talk about this,
dude. You know what? It's so funny that a lot of people, they come to me and they're like, Ani, I would never want your job, or they're like, I don't understand. How do you do it? How do you get on stage? How do you do the podcast? How do you do this? And I'm like, I don't know. You just like do it. It's super fun. And I've come to realize that's my wheelhouse. Even though I'm like nervous and a little bit anxious, and sometimes my stomach hurts, and I'm like, and I like pump myself up. It's still my wheelhouse. Like I'm just fucking good at it. Like
you get like a high off it. You're like, it's like you're nervous, but you like love it.
Yeah, like it's totally in my comfort zone.
Whereas some people like they would be nervous and want to curl up in a ball and
you
cry
ask them their name and they're like,
and I used to be that person. Like literally, I remember like when I first started my brand and I was only doing small classes. Like I wasn't really, actually I was a little nervous, even though because like you're in front of your peers and whatever, and you're like teaching and that. But I remember like when I started, like I'd go to other people's classes all the time, and they'd be like, "What's your name?" And literally, I'd be like, if it was like 50 people, and I'd be like, I don't remember my name.
Danielle.
I'd be like, it's Danielle. And my face goes red easy. And I don't know why. I've talked about this on some other podcast studios. I'm like a shy 12-year-old girl still. I'm trying to grow up. But anyway, my face goes right red. And I'm like, I'm Danielle.
Well, and it's so crazy because I think about like all the crazy shit that we do, and I'm like, oh, that's just easy now.
Yeah.
But here's my big but, guys. Look, Danielle, I've never given you enough credit, and I'm going to give you credit live here.
All right.
Your photo shoots. I see it, and I'm like, yeah, the pictures are so pretty. Let's just taking photos. How fun. I take it back. I take it all back. Look, if you have never done a photo shoot before with an actual photographer, and all you do, and you look at Danielle's photos, and you're like, whatever, I could take some fucking photos. No, you can't. No, you fucking can't. Look, Danielle and I went to go take photos. We had her photographer, and I'm like, I can do this. And all of a sudden, I'm like watching her, and I'm like, oh no. And
I'm like, good.
And I'm like, Danielle, what are you doing? She's like, you just gotta like do the drunk walk.
I call it the drunk walk. Like you just like your arms are kind of like flailing.
She's lying.
You're like,
it's not. It's the most sober drunk walk. And
I'm not drunk.
Danielle, there's a frame to it because I fucking watched you. And she'll take a step and go back. And a step and go back.
I got my moves.
And then one hand and then one hand. And every position, I'm like, why does she look so cute? And I'm like, double finger guns, like, cha-cha.
Or you're like, hand on the hip, like a robot.
Or at one point, I stiff-armed so bad, the photographer stopped taking photos. And I'm like, if I wasn't Olive.
Why are you doing?
I was arming, my one arm was hooked with Danielle's, but my left one was just doing this. Like it's never seen a fucking elbow before. Guys, you have to go to dkwselling.com and see what we're doing. But you know what? It was in that moment, I was like, I'm so uncomfortable.
It's hard to look candid, huh?
Do you know how unnatural it is to look natural?
But you know what's so funny? When you do hair photos, you're really good, but it is a little more posy where you're like, look at the camera, look here, look there. Like candid ones to act like you're actually just like laughing and like, this is so fun. I love these palm trees. And we're just having the best time ever. It's harder than it looks.
It was so, I literally do not remember the last time I was that uncomfortable. And let me tell you, you know me personally. I've done some shit. That was still might be the most uncomfortable thing I've done in years. I was laughing
when she's like, Ani, go ahead and take your hand. And I want you to pull Danielle in on the waist. And she goes, why does this feel like our wedding photos right now? And I was like, yep, it sort of does. These feel like engagement photos.
Goes, these are engagement photos. I'm like, what? No, never made it there. The poor photographer looked at me and was like,
but they did turn out cute. I think we just kept like laughing and like I was like, just do the drunk walk, but it really does work. Or like with girls, I'm like, just grab my hand and walk and laugh. It's funny. Like, you know what I mean?
I have to give you mad props because I've always thought, I'm like, it's photos, it's fun, like it's easy. And then I'm like, this is rough. It's so...
Don't worry. You will find... I have what I call the flamingo walk. I have the dead arm walk. I have like,
can we just practice this at this point? That's literally how I feel. And
then you're going to appreciate this story then. Because
I'm so stoked.
So I have a posing coach, right? Where I have to get in a bikini and not just get in a bikini. I have to put my phone...
It's for Danielle's fitness competition, not for her Instagram.
Yeah, that sounds bad. Sorry, I'm doing a fitness competition that's like where you're super muscly and you get on stage and you smile and flex and do all at the same time. So I have this posing coach and she's literally looking at me like, you need to like relax, but you're supposed to flex. Exactly. So you're supposed to look soft and natural and smile and flow and flex at the same time. And at one point I swear she just wanted to hang up. Literally, she said to me at one point, okay, stop trying so hard. I was like,
you're like, I don't
know.
But you know what? That's almost how I felt when you were like, just walk. But then all of a sudden, I saw some photos that were like cute, but I was like, what is my chin doing? And I was like, oh, I was trying to move my arms because I forgot how my arms worked. I literally forgot how to move my arms. And then my face went weird. And then I'd get my face, but my shoulders were doing this. Oh.
Do you not? Okay, so now I'm going to reel this back in. So this is how I got good at even taking hair photos with clients is because you look back at the photos and you figure out what looks awkward in this client. What are they doing? Instead of just focusing on the hair, because like you would do that to yourself if you're looking at a photo of yourself. You'd be like, why is my shoulder like this? Why is my arm like this? But when you're taking a photo of a client, and I think a lot of artists miss this, they'll be like, how come this photo is not selling? Like her hair was so beautiful in person, but you only have a 2D image of like what it actually looked like in person. And you don't have a 4D image of what it looks like on photography. Mm-hmm. And so you have to literally like learn those little things like, okay, you have to instruct you have to become a photographer and tell your clients like drop your shoulder, do this. Why are you holding your breath? Why do you like little how many times are you taking a photo of a client where they literally like you get the camera up and you're like you either have to go to the
your chest out at me?
Or I've had some clients where I have a good friend, she won't care that I'm sharing this literally, and she's got some nice ladies up top. And I was like, we were doing photos and I was like, I want you to know you look great, but I want you to, this is going to sound weird. I want you to like relax and lean forward. She's all, no. I'm like, do it. And I took a picture. She's like, oh, that looks way more natural. But it was because she looked very top heavy.
Yeah.
So you have to like kind of like get out of your, like even like behind the camera, in front of the camera, if you're taking the photo, you have to be comfortable telling people what to do. And if you're behind the camera, you have to like give yourself feedback and all this stuff.
For sure. And that's why I looked at those photos and I was like, okay, well, that was weird. I remember me doing that. Okay, that was cute. Oh, I was laughing a little too hard at that one. But for me, it was, and I'd even told you, I'm like, I think I'm going to have, or the photographer's name is Vanessa, have Vanessa come out and maybe do it like, I can't do it once a week. It's too much for me. But maybe
I
like,
don't even do it once a week.
Maybe it's like once a month.
Like,
I'll do
once
it
a month.
and just try it just to get used to it. Like, even if they're not the best photos.
You will get better at directing your clients, though. I'll tell you what, that was like one of the reasons I started doing photos, because I was like, well, screw it. If I'm going to ask them to do photos, I want to feel what it feels like to be behind the camera. And I was like, okay.
And I feel like maybe I might just like double up our sessions. Like I'll pay for mine if you pay for yours. Yeah. But literally, even just so you can stand there and be like, don't do this, do that, do this. Because watching you, I was like, damn, I have never given Danielle enough credit for taking those fucking photos. I got my 4 moves,
you know? Works in life. If you have 4 moves in life, you're winning. In all areas.
Okay, so for you, what's the last time you were wildly uncomfortable? Where you were like...
Literally, yesterday. And my lower back hurts so bad. And I text her, like, my lower back hurts really bad. And she goes, oh boy. That was her comment. I was like, no, I'm serious. Like, should I take something? Do I need some Bengay on my back? I don't know.
How old are you, 75?
I don't know what Bengay is. But literally, I can work out so hard, but yet posing made me sore. I felt like I'm a pretty like confident person. I'm like, I can get on stage, I can talk about hair, but even that took reps. Like I literally was like, I'm in my closet by myself and I'm feeling really awkward and vulnerable in my bikini posing.
Because you have something basically just, you're almost naked, dude. It's like something going right up. I've seen those bikinis.
And she has me put my phone below because she goes, this is where the judges stand. And
you're
I was like,
you're really looking up.
And then she's like, I need you to lean forward and push your butt up. I'm like, what else can you see down there? Like literally, I'm like,
you're like, the waxing places have been
closed.
I
was like, I'm sorry in advance. I didn't know how far this relationship was going to go.
You know what?
Like,
that's like even at one point when we were taking the photos, Vanessa, she was taking photos of us from the back, and she's like, okay, lean forward. We literally bent at the hip to stick our butt out, and she's like, that's no.
We're all, well, you're welcome.
Can I see that photo, please? But it was just so, I feel like I'm comfortable doing the things that most people are uncomfortable doing, like stage work and podcasts and training, like all those things. Yeah. It's just, it fits so well into my personality and my wheelhouse that this is the first time I've remembered, like, damn.
But everybody has
that's
something they feel like super uncomfortable with. It's not like you moved to California and you're like super comfortable with that idea. Do you know what I mean?
No,
like,
even being on stage, I was really nervous at first.
Right.
But I think I loved it so much that I didn't care how nervous I was. Taking photos is fun, but I'm not like in love with it. So me continuing to do it just like keeps like pushing me out more and more.
I think too, like I am like pretty introverted, like even doing podcasting in the beginning, like getting on camera. Like when my students come in, they're like, oh, I can't, it's hard for me to even like talk about product. And I'm like, go back to my original YouTube days. Like I can have a good laugh because I started and everybody starts off so stiff and they're like, they're almost trying to be like too professional and they want to read you the ingredients and like somebody watching it is like, I don't know what those ingredients are. Why don't you just tell me why you like it? So right on out of the gate, one of the things that I realized on video is like, you got to dumb it down. Like you got to dumb it down. Stop trying to list out the ingredients and say, hey, this is going to make your hair soft. It's going to make your hair shiny. It's going to make your hair this. And so that's literally, and that's how I teach to this day. And I have to have people like you who are like real in the technical side because I get too like, I don't know, you just do it because it feels right kind of thing, you know?
I'm like, yeah.
You're like,
but also,
let's talk about this.
You could turn your hand 4 degrees. That'd be great.
Yes. So it's a good mix of like learning why it works and being good. But comfort zones, like.
Well, and I feel like it's very easy when you're so uncomfortable to walk away and be like, I'm not doing that again.
Right.
Like, I'm not doing it again. That sucked. I was uncomfortable. And I think it's the feeling of I was bad at that.
Yeah.
I was, because even taking the photos, which I get some people are probably listening like it's just photos, but you don't understand when you're on a busy beach and there's people living their life and there's someone in front of you going, do this, do that. Okay, now a wave is going to come up. Kick the wave and laugh like you love it. I'm like, like it's so awkward that you walk away and you're like, because I walked away and I was like, fuck, we might have to crop me out of some of these because, man.
It's so funny though. Like I still to this day, like I'm like, oh, there's people around here, and then I'm like, fuck it, I don't care. What do I have to lose?
Yeah.
Like this is for my marketing, this is for my business. And when I go into that frame, I don't really care. In fact, halfway through the shoot, you were still shooting, and I had to put on my swimsuit top, and I was like,
I was watching.
I was like, there's no bathroom, and I was like. The idea of, I literally just finagled that on the beach in public, put on a suit, and I was like, I bet that's like what models have to do. You strip down, you got to be comfortable with yourself enough to be like, I'm changed. I mean, nobody saw anything, but I literally was like finagling my swimsuit on under my dress, and then I was like, ta-da, outfit change. Like, but it's, I think that a lot of times we want to quit when something's uncomfortable because we're like, oh, I failed at that.
Yes. Or I sucked. Yeah. I wasn't good. And even for artists, sometimes it's like if a client's unhappy and man, and that's hard because it's art and we are all so emotional and sensitive. If a client's like, hey, I didn't really like this or blah, blah, that happens to literally everybody.
Right.
There's no hairstylist in the world that has made 100% of their clients happy. And we get the feedback that's maybe not great or the best. And we're like, I'm terrible. I can't do hair. Yeah. Like even things like that are hard, but inside of God.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you can't look at those situations, because I used to be like, oh well, it's a difference of opinion in my art versus what you like, and I'm like, you know what, Danielle, you can't be like that. Even if you don't, it's like getting on the same page with the client. You have to be able to be like, okay, well, even though I felt like I gave her exactly what she wanted, where was there an error? There was obviously an error in communication. I didn't see what her vision was. So even if I liked the color, I have to take accountability in that the communication was not there. And even if it was beautiful, it wasn't what she was expecting. Otherwise, otherwise she wouldn't be complaining. And if you can't give yourself feedback on like, here's where I fucked up, it doesn't matter how good of an artist you are, because you're still going to run into situations where people are like, I don't love this. And you're like, no, it's awesome. You should love it. No, it's not what they want.
And it's okay if someone doesn't love it. Just accept it, fix it, make it better.
Yeah. And for me, it's always, if somebody doesn't like it, even if I'm like, oh, it was a great job, I know that it was a lack of communication.
Always.
It always is. You're like, I didn't see, or not even that, because clients think they want something that they can't actually obtain or achieve. So it's like reeling it back in and be like, I love that, but let's create some realistic expectations as to what's possible. And let's look at this photo maybe a little bit more and find out, what is it that you like about this photo? You like this one blonde piece. You like this one brown piece. You don't necessarily, this as a whole will not look good with your skin tone or whatever it is. And then they're like, oh, and then they shift their vision inside of their head based on what they thought they want and what realistic expectations are. So then they're set up to succeed rather than fail.
Absolutely. And even like going back to like comfort zone, I know it's so easy to want to quit and never do something because you feel like a failure. You feel like you're bad at it, and nobody wants to do something they're bad at, but you cannot become better at something if you don't go through the stage of being shitty and being bad and fucking it up, because everybody's going to do that.
I think it's people will say, well, how do you do that? Because I'm sure, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I've been like in the beginning of my career, even doing hair, I remember feeling like I would get like nauseous and like lose sleep over like feeling like I didn't like how that color went, or I didn't like how that cut went.
I can still do that to this day if I think I fucked something up.
Yeah, like you're where you're like in your head about it like crazy, and it's like how do you overcome that into where you're just like, hey, there isn't a challenge I haven't seen. There isn't like to me it's just reps. Like now if somebody, again, using the client as an experience, if they come back and they're like, hey, this isn't what I wanted, I'm not like nervous anymore. I'm like, let's make it right. What do you want?
Yeah.
It's not like a weird, awkward conversation.
Well, and because it doesn't have to be, if a client comes back and says like, hey, I didn't love it, it doesn't mean you're shitty.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't mean you're a bad hairstylist. It doesn't mean you do bad work. It doesn't mean you should fucking quit. That's not what that means.
And it doesn't mean you should fire that client either.
It just means in that one instance, I'm 100% sure there was a miscommunication somewhere.
Right.
And you now have a chance to make it better and then learn from it.
Exactly.
And that's amazing. And for me, I'm actually really, really emotional, and I feel like I don't think I'm super sensitive, but I can get my feelings hurt. But I feel like I beat myself up more than anybody else.
Yeah.
Like anyone can be like, hey, that wasn't great, or don't do that on stage, or don't this and that. And like, like it might, if you scale it from like a 1 to a 10, it might only be like a level 1.5 scolding.
But in your mind, you're like,
in my mind, I'm already at 25.
Like, you're like,
this is the worst. I will think about it when I put my head down at night. It'll haunt me for the next week. 10 years from now, I'll still think back and be embarrassed.
But you have to be to this place where you're like, yes, okay, like don't beat yourself up about it so much, right? You have to be like, okay.
Well, and that's the thing. To this day, I kind of do. I feel like I start to go there, like,
and then you're like, your time's not effective there, so you have to like,
like even I sent an email the other day. I literally pressed one wrong button. I wrecked it. Like it was just bad, and then I did cry.
What email is this?
I already told you about that.
Okay.
I already told you about this. But literally, I sit there and I was like, oh my God. And then I started to cry. And then I was like, you have like 10 seconds to reel it in. And then I'm like, okay. And then I literally started calling team members being like, well, I don't understand. I've always sent this. And then I'm like, oh, okay. That makes sense. Okay. I'm super sweaty. I'm going to have to put deodorant on a second time. But now I also know, like, I made the mistake.
Right.
I never again want to feel that. So you can bet your ass I'm never going to make that fucking mistake again.
I think too, like going, and I don't know if you're like this, but like going into something knowing like you're prepared and you're ready for it. So if you're gonna speak
Convention.
well, like if for me, like I used to try to go on video, or I would try to go up on stage, and I'd had this story like I can't prepare a PowerPoint, or I can't be on stage and whatever. And then I was like, no. Finally I got to this place. I'm like, why don't you prepare, Danielle? Why don't you prepare? And like literally this last year, and like podcasts, we just kind of come and it's very like loose and like whatever. But now when I do videos, it's like I really sit down and I try to think about what I want to say and how I want to articulate it, so that when I go to a shoot or when I go on stage, it's like I have my bullet points, but then I can kind of ad lib and free flow, and then it comes off really solid.
You have a frame.
I have a frame, right? So I'm not a good speaker, but if you give me a frame, I can like share from my heart and from my soul. And the more reps that I do it, the better I become at doing it. Even though to this day, I'm always like, ooh, I get a little nervous. But now because I've gotten better at it, it's like a fun nervous, like how you are, where you're like, ooh, this is scary. But I'm like, I prepared. I'm ready to smash this, right? Instead of if you go into something where you're unprepared and then you're like surprised that you failed, it's because you didn't commit. You didn't go all in. You didn't commit to whatever it is you you were doing before you got there, and then you're wondering how you failed when you got there. It's because your commitment levels weren't there, and it's because of the fear of failure.
Well, and I think people hear great speakers like a Tony Robbins or even like Garrett. Garrett's a phenomenal speaker. He still prepares though.
Right.
Can Garrett pull something right out of his fucking asshole and sell whatever to anybody? Yes, he's phenomenal. But he prepares.
Right.
He knows going in, this is my topic. This is the outcome I'm aiming for. These are the 4 things I want to hit. Everything else can free flow.
Right.
And he can do the thing he's great at, but he always goes in with a frame. It's not
and prepared.
There's always some kind of preparedness.
It's not a gamble. And I think, again, like anything we do, if you want to be a better photographer, if you want to be a better business owner, if you want to be a better salon owner, you don't just show up, put in the time, and hopefully something happens. You have to just put in the reps in order to be good at something. And I think that when you put time and effort into something and you finally get to this place where, like, you know, so I'll just use my fitness thing for again, like if I know I did the diet, if I know I prepared, I hired my coaches, I did everything, am I going to win? No. But am I going to step on maybe I'll win. I shouldn't say that. I might win. I don't know what I'll win.
You're looking pretty good.
But I'm just saying, but if I get up on stage and I know, like, it wasn't like, hey, I kind of just thought I was fit and decided to do this. Like if I go in knowing like I prepared and then I see how I perform, something like that would be like, okay, now I see the competition. Now I see what I'm up against. Like now I know, like I'm going to push a little further and maybe compete or do whatever I want to do. And I think it becomes fun because you're like, I went into this prepared, right? And I just think in life there's a lot of times where we want to just put in the time but not the work.
Well, and going into it prepared, and I'll kind of keep speaking on like your fitness competition, if you were to go in and be like, I don't know, fuck it, I'm just here, that would also then reflect on stage, even inside of the confidence that you feel, because you would know.
You could see it in the body language, everything.
You would know that you weren't prepared. And same with whenever artists are doing hair or they're doing NPR or a consultation.
Yes.
The ones who have gone through our legitimate academy consultation training and they've practiced and they've gone over it, you can tell based off of the results.
Yes.
And the ones who they're like, oh, yeah, I played it once in the car, but my kid was yelling and then I hit on something and then I did, and then maybe, and then I'm like, oh, so you didn't really watch the training.
Well, and that's what's so crazy is artists will get stuck in the skills that they currently have in front of them. And they'll learn a new skill, but they don't actually put the time into learning it and doing practice. Like I always tell people, I'm like, you guys, in the beginning of my career and still to this day, if I am not feeling confident, the worst feeling in the world is going to a client, knowing I've been doing hair for 18 years and been like, oh, fuck it, this is kind of a gamble. Like that's the worst feeling ever. If you've been doing hair for 18 years and you have a reputation to uphold, then you should probably go in feeling pretty solid and pretty strong about it instead of just like winging it and being like, well, it's the system. The system didn't work for me. Well, the system didn't work for you because you didn't put the work in behind the system.
Do you know I actually just had a talk with a student today, and she's like, I'm like, hey, you haven't turned in any work. Like, you're on probation. You're going to be kicked out in a month if like you don't get it together. And we were talking on the phone and she's like, oh my gosh, I know. She's like, I've been looking at it and then I take some photos, but I don't like love it. And I feel like I'm not getting the results everybody else is. I'm like, okay, well, how often do you practice? She's like, what? You know, she's been really, really busy. And I'm like, okay, well, how many clients are you doing? She's like, oh, I'm too nervous to offer it to people yet. I'm like, hold on. So you're not watching the training videos. You're not actually practicing on a mannequin. You're not doing it on clients. How do you expect to get better? She's like, oh yeah, I know that's a problem. I'm like, wait, what? Hold up, girl. Like,
well, accountability is the first step.
Do you know, though, she did tell me, she goes, thank you for being on my ass. I'm like, you're very welcome. But for real, I'm going to need to see some progress.
Some people do need like a swift kick in the ass. I think because we have over 300 students and there's only one of you, but we do have other trainers and coaches and my eyes are on everybody. And so, and if my eyes are not on your ass, Ani's eyes are on your ass if you're in my academy. And so I feel like people just think they're going to slip one under the radar. And I'm like, that's cute. And I told Ani, I was like, can you please get on the phone with her? And I think that she was probably caught off guard by that.
Do you know, I had 4 phone calls today.
Oh, see, but that's good. I think that I'd be one of those people, I'm not even going to lie. I'd be like, oh, snuck one past them. And then until somebody called me out and I'd be like, fuck, thank you. Thank you. I was trying to get by with the bare minimum. I'm not sure why I was trying to do that, but thank you. Because when you have pressure, when you have accountability, like when you say you're going to do something, then there's more pressure to actually do it. But if you don't say you're going to do something and you're hiding inside and like nobody knows you're there, then there's not that pressure of that accountability. Like that's why I even think like if you're going to do something, it's good to manifest it. Say, hey, I'm going to do a fitness competition. Hey, I'm going to run a marathon. Hey, I'm going to do this, because it almost holds you accountable because of that social pressure.
You told everybody. You're like, I'm doing a fitness competition. I'm doing a fitness competition. Fuck it, I'm going to do it. And then everybody's like, had you kind of like backed out or been like, everyone would have been like, didn't you say you were, so you're not now.
See, but even with my students, I give like in events and everything we do, I'm like, you guys, you got to like get out of your comfort zones. You got to just put yourself out there. You got to stay committed. You got to do the work. And so now I'm like, I think I'm doing this because I'm like setting an example for my students. I don't really know. It scares me. Because it's like the one thing where I'm like, I can do all these things that maybe you guys don't want to do and you're scared to do, but let me do something uncomfortable to show you and share with you and experience this so I can be like, all right, so I was comfortable here, but then became uncomfortable here.
That's how I feel about the photo shoots, which I know it seems so simple, but for some reason for me, I was like, I felt like finger gunning the whole time.
I literally think the simplest things too, people think like, oh, well, I could do that, but I just don't want to.
Let me tell you, once you try to start doing it, no, it's real fucking hard. And you know what? And let me tell you, I'm gonna also give mad props to the photographer. She's amazing.
Yeah.
She's great. And she, even though she was like, Ani, you're stiff arming something, can you stop? I was like crying, laughing. And at one point we were on the beach and Danielle was like, oh, Ani, do you want to do small? And Vanessa goes, she might be saying no, but the answer is yes. So Ani, I'm gonna have you stand over here. I was like, I think she just scolded me. Oh my God.
I like her because she's like quick and she's direct. It's like sometimes I'll be like looking at her and think I'm like doing like the smolder. I'm like, how's this one look? And she'll be like, I look down. I'm like, nope, I looked cross-eyed. I'm gonna look. That's why you'll see a lot of photos of me laughing and looking at the floor because she'll literally be like, I need you to look down now. I'm like, oh, that's not my sexy eyes. Like,
no,
those sexy eyes look creepy. I was giving you creepy eyes.
Those were your drunk eyes, Danielle. They were half closed, squinting.
But doesn't every girl have that where you're like, this is my sexy face, and then it's like what works on Pinterest and what doesn't, and then you're like, oh, that's what I really look like. Oh,
I have been that person where I'm like nailing it, and someone goes, why do you look so mad? I'm like, fuck.
But it takes repetition. Like you shouldn't be scared to do something because you're like, oh, it's just not me. Like you're candid. I'm not candid.
And
like,
even some of the bloopers I loved. Like the one you posted, I was dying laughing. Like they were so cute.
Because I'm like, okay, this could be a fun story to wrap in there. But yeah, you never know. Like you guys just I would encourage you, like no matter what it is, you kind of have to drop the ego a little bit and be like, okay, I want to try this and go in with like an attitude of like, what's going to happen? What do I have to lose? This is going to be fun.
And know that you're not going to be perfect at it in the beginning, but that's okay. To get better, you just have to start somewhere and do it consistently.
I looked in the camera and I thought my hair was like just jetting straight out with my twitching eye. And I felt like you were having like a real sentimental moment. So sorry, I just ruined your moment. But
nope, not anymore. We're good.
But I always tell people too, consistency over time creates huge, massive wins. Like it just does. And consistency with feedback to yourself in order to improve and get better is like 10x. Like you determine the speed that you work at, and I feel like it's based on what your commitment level is. It's what your commitment level is. So my advice to you is commit on a daily basis. And last thing I want to tell you guys, don't beat yourself up about it. Like just don't. You know what? And I always say this, like compare it to like a diet. Like I think, and I'm just going to speak for women because I'm a woman. I think like women, like say for example, like when you're going to lose your baby weight, or you say you want to lose like 5-10 pounds, and you're like, or men do it too, but you like think you need to be so strict, and then you have like one cheat meal or you have a weak moment, and then you're like, fuck it, and then like your whole weekend spirals down, or your whole next week, and you're like, okay, so yeah, you screwed up for 2 hours of the 24 hours. Like how about the next day you let go of the guilt, because the guilt is actually holding you back, and now it's making you eat more brownies for breakfast. Who has brownies for breakfast? So don't sabotage yourself based on the guilt that you're feeling. Acknowledge like, hey, man, I fucked up last night. I just really binge ate those brownies. But don't like let it determine how your day goes every single day. And I feel like guilt plays a massive role into people like playing small, right? So don't let that guilt hold you back from where you need to go. And just remember, like, stay consistent. If you screw up, it doesn't matter. Every day is a new day, and every hour is a new hour. So choose to be a better, different person every day, every hour, every minute, and any chance you get.
Well, and it's like people, whenever a bad thing happens and they're like, it's a bad day. No, it was a bad moment. You chose to make it a bad day, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Well, and it's like, then you think they'll be like, oh, things just kept spiraling. And it's like, because you stayed stuck in that mind frame. Like you literally had your bad moment, and then everything looked like it unraveled and spiraled. And I'm guilty. Like everybody's guilty of that. But now it's like, I try to recognize when it's going that way, and I just need to take a minute. I need to breathe. I need to meditate. I need to refocus. I need to redirect the direction that I'm going, because now, if you think about it, like, especially as like, I feel like when I'm, leading students and running a bigger company, I'm like, how much did that moment just cost me? And ask yourself that, whether you're a salon owner or a business owner and you have a shitty moment. Now look at the reflection that has on your family and your teams and your business members. And did that moment just cost you a week? Did that slip up in your diet just cost you 3 weeks? So you kind of have to, when you look at it like that way, you immediately can flip it and be like, no. And like I get mad at myself. I'm like, no, this will not determine how your day goes. So flip it around. So
I love it.
I love it. I love it. Flip your day around, stay consistent, and
get out of your comfort zone.
Get out of your comfort zone. We'll see you guys every week. We do a podcast.
Yep. And really, by the time you're hearing this, tickets will have already gone public and maybe even sold out. So I hope you're able to get a ticket for BMS
I hope
Con 5.
my eyes done twitching by next week.
Oh, hopefully. Let's all hope. So see you guys next time.
Bye.